All right, here it is, the snail report on the Hyundai Sonata plug-in hybrid 2019, and we're going to try to get into it. We were able to get a lot of the log information and get into engineering mode and do some pretty creative stuff, capturing a lot of logs to USB files. That was very, very handy. A lot of information to digest and sort through in a short period of time. So we were not able to gain root access to the system. I feel that given enough time and some of the hacks that have just come out this month with Bluetooth called Bluetooth, I think we could definitely do it. But at this point, with this amount of time, we weren't able to. We did find a lot of recon and a lot of information that's pretty interesting. So stick around. Here we go. First off, we're going to show you a little video that I did. It's just a little bit here telling you how to get into engineering mode. It's going to come in handy later. So take a listen real quick.
Here's how to enter engineering mode. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Or not.
Yeah.
Might have to go back again. Go to system info. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Got it.
So as you can see, we were able to get into engineering mode, and that was handy. So engineering mode is one of the critical things of getting into the system, to be able to load an image from a USB drive, to download the log files. That was kind of one of the first steps that I actually discovered back in June. So I found out after making that video recently, the last couple of days, that instead of doing 5 and then 2, you can do 7 at kind of a slow, moderate pace on the left side, and then do 1 on the right side, and that seems to work a lot more consistently. I've seen people doing a 2-finger tap, just keep hitting it on YouTube, but the one that works for me most consistently was doing 7 on one side and then 1 on the other side, and that got me in pretty much every time. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the logs that we found. I recovered off of the log file. You can, in engineering mode, you can export the log files, and it gives you a tar file. So as you can see, we've got lots and lots and lots of information in here that you can go through. Reboot recovery, event log, error logs, the MOFGen log, telematics, syscom boot, mycom system. There's just a ton of logs in here. So let's get into it and see what we can find out. We're going to first look at the system boot log. That's pretty generic. It just gives you a little bit of information, just like when you kind of boot up a Linux screen, it tells you the kernel and everything. So we're going to look here, and we're going to see the build is unknown, which is kind of frustrating. The bootloader, actually, if you look down to the kernel section, you'll see that it's Linux version 3.1.10-TCC, and that is the TinyC compiler. So that was compiled with TinyC, and that is why the bootloader is unknown, because TinyC is actually acting as the bootloader, and it's a really small version, and I don't know, it just doesn't recognize it. So GCC version 4.6.x, Google is also being used. Yeah, there you go. There's the system boot, not a whole lot there. The next one we're going to go over is the mycom log file. And it's going to snap one of these every day, every time you boot on the system, several times a day. So there's a ton of log files in there for this. It's going to show you the boot mode is normal, a bunch of other information and status codes, if the alternator is working, all kinds of information. So the last frequency for your FM radio, which I listened to 102.1, your last AM frequency, a lot of privacy issues here, actually. The last audio mode was Bluetooth streaming, so I probably had my phone on connecting to YouTube or something, since they won't let you play YouTube on your heads-up display. Kind of annoying. Tells you if you're in reverse or not, so that's fun. Let's see, CD eject status. Mine doesn't even have a CD-ROM drive, so that's interesting. whether the parking brake is on, the volume setting that was last on. You can change the options to default to the last setting, so it has that. USB music playtime, so it remembers if you have a USB device plugged in that has the music files on it, it will remember the time that you were last stopped playing, and it can resume at that time. It tells you if the doors are open, side mirror status open. I don't know what that even means. Lots of interesting things in here to go through just for detecting the status, and this stuff can be launched off to Hyundai Kia Motor Corporation, HKMC. So we'll get into that a little bit later. It reports constantly to headquarters what your GPS coordinates are and all kinds of information from telematics and everything else, including a lot of this information here, whether you've got your rear camera on when you're booting up your system. When you're booting up your system, that's funny. When you're turning on your car. So let's get into some of the telematics here. I'm not going to scroll through all of it because there's some sensitive information in there, like my VIN number and other things that I just don't necessarily want out in the public. But one of the first things you'll notice in here is there's a route to host at the top. Well, before that, there's these couple, 6 or so on the top here are 3G Wi-Fi tagged. It seems to be using 4G LTE, which is what the little icon on the top corner shows. If we switch back over to the video here, which, hold on 2 seconds, we'll switch back over to the video and pause it here. If you look on the top corner, you can see that, where is it? Oh, anyway, you can see right here, there's this little 4G LTE symbol here. And my phone is currently connected while I'm doing this, so the Bluetooth settings are showing up and everything. But that is pretty cool that it must have a built-in chip for and SIM card for connecting to the internet through 4G LTE, because even when my phone is not connected, it still shows that 4G LTE signal. So it is connecting through Wi-Fi and continuously broadcasting back to HKMC to this IP address, 208.10.29.173. And I have a PCAP file of that, but I wasn't able to really intercept anything on there useful. But I was able to do some Nmap and find out some of the port numbers that it's using. Mostly 8001 through 8011. It's using some of those to do some reporting back, and I wasn't able to delve too deeply into that, but it looks like you could spoof your reporting information based on some of the other files that I'll show you in just a minute. But a couple other interesting things in here. It's telling you the send HTTP, the URI that it's sending to, this the /DRI REPT. I don't know what that is. I would assume it's report, but who knows? It's going to also tell you if the phone is connected and data is connected, which in this case it was. And the modem state is okay. A bunch of other information. It got a 204 from sending off the HTTP request. It got a 204, which means a successful return from the server. So we know that it did a check-in. So it says set daily checked day. So it returned in that it checked in. It's reporting my odometer setting. It's reporting some other information on a date here. And yeah, I think there's a ton of information in here to sort through. Like down here at the bottom, you see that it's doing a diagnostics on the LKAS, which is the lane keep assist system. And so it's basically saying that it's not turned on. It's in process. No, it's not turned on. I'm not driving, so why would it be turned on? It actually is turned on, but it's not in process. It's not using it, I think is what it's trying to say, because I'm not driving, so it can't keep in the lane. Let's go ahead and take a look at the MOFGen. I don't know exactly how to pronounce that. This one I did had to take out some of the authentication stuff that I found in here. I wasn't really sure if that changes every time you log in, but just to be on the safe side, I obfuscated some of it. So you can see that it's making SSL request, It's checking back to that IP address, which doesn't show in here, but I'm pretty sure that's it. You see a 204 and an HTTP client execute. So it's doing an SSL check. It's connecting to HTTP 1.1, and it's getting a 204. So you'll notice on here, maybe we'll see that somewhere else. Yeah, we'll see that when we look at the certificate. Actually, let's go ahead and pull that up right now. The certificate for that website that comes up is right here. So you can see pretty clearly that that it's got an expiration date of 2115. So it's got like 100 years to go still, maybe a little less. What is that? 95 years to go. You can see the common name on here. And let me see if I can select that window and make it a little bigger for you guys, because that's just not going to work for most people. All right, here we go. That's much better. All right, so prd.hatatms1. Who knows what that is? I'm sure I could figure it out. Hyundai something, 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 something. Oh, there it is right there. Hyundai Auto Ever Telematics America. Probably that's what it is. It says it's in Fountain Valley, United States. So the certificate was issued by Hyundai Motor Corporation, though, so they have their own certificate authority. So in theory, you could spoof that and then try to do a man-in-the-middle attack and redirect DNS to that. It is very interesting that the certificate is good for so many years. I mean, so many decades, really. So that opens up a lot of possibilities for spoofing that just because of the length of that key. Probably a pretty big security flaw there. I mean, Apple just dropped theirs from 3 years down to what, 28 months or something like that. Not even a full 3 years, so it's kind of a weird time frame. But anyway, so we can see that it connected. It's sending off the data that it wants to do. It's initializing the logger. It's sending information. It's sending my altitude. It's sending, things are kind of out of order, what I would say. The TID, I believe, is like my username. The temporary, or maybe it's a temporary ID. That's probably what it is. And you can see that it's sending a post request to this address here. And it's probably driver report, but I'm not sure exactly. So it's saying the altitude, it's saying the time, this is the time offset, my time zone is -7. And it's sending to VRM. It's got my latitude and my longitude a little further down. Let me see if I can use my mouse to direct you guys a little. Here's the longitude down here, and it's got the run distance, which I'm not sure exactly what that is, but it has my mileage. Run distance is maybe the time since I reset one of my counters on the dash or something. And you can see that it's sending it in JSON. So whatever it's sending, I wasn't able to capture that. It's doing some basic authentication, and there was a key here which I've garbled up here so that it wouldn't reveal if that is an actual basic authentication key unique to my car. It won't reveal that to you guys. But it is sending a JSON file, which is interesting. If we could get a copy of that and break that down, then we could possibly spoof the GPS information and say that my car is in Germany or Russia or wherever. And that may enable someone to then download updates for another country. So if you were in, say, Germany and you wanted to download the updates for the United States model of car, you could potentially spoof your lat long on there and then do the updates. I think there's a couple other things that you need to change, though. One of them is the model number, which we may see in some of the other log files here. In fact, let's bring up the CPU. Oh, this one's not going to show that, but it does show some other really interesting stuff. So this is basically, oh, it does show it actually right at the top. LF is the model of it's the code for the country code. So Canada has its own country code. Korea has its own country code. So what we're looking at here, I don't know why it's LF. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but LF is apparently North America, United States, and then it's plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. 2019 is the year that the car was made, and it does boldly state USA, and then it's got the software version. So it looks like this may be 2019 April first. That's what it may looks like, kind of what it looks like, the firmware version that might be installed and running on this, or maybe the operating system. So anyway, this is a copy of top, and you can see it's got some special characters in here that my Windows machine isn't recognizing, probably end of line and characters like that. But you can see that there's a lot of typical Linux commands running here. Obviously the init to start things off, watchdog to keep things running smoothly, and then you can see there's an MMC here, boot. So boot 0, so it's booting to the first MMC card, which I discovered that there is a built-in 32 gigabyte eMMC card on the system. It's a chip, and I doubt that it's removable. I've seen some videos online where people unsoldered it and tried to hack into it that way, and were successful, but that's a little bit beyond what I'm willing to do to my car. But you can also see that there's the block device 0, partition 2. You can see that it's got ext4 as the format. So all this is good information to know. In other log files I did see, and hopefully I've got copies of that I'm going to bring up here shortly, but it does also load NTFS, so that way it can read USB cards. So you can see it's loading the system bin SD card is running. I believe I had my USB thumb drives plugged into it at the time. You can also see some of the other error logging systems and input method Latin. A lot of interesting info here. The voice memo thing and a key store. That's cool. So that's probably what it's using to verify your SSL certificate. So pretty cool. You can see all the different apps that it's got running. Software update from Hyundai Kia Motor Corporation. A bunch of those, a telematics app. There's also a navigation app, which I think might be susceptible. If I can get that to update from the thumb drive, that might be an attack vector that would be successful, being able to replace the nav. And I've seen other people do similar hacks where they've added additional buttons to the navigation screen to pull up other things, so they could bring up the browser, they could bring up a YouTube client. So that's going to be something that would be fun to explore too. And you can see right here, this one is the engineering mode app that's installed on the system. So some people have hacked their navigation app to have a button that brings you straight into engineering mode, so you don't have to do that tapping key combination every time. Audio CD app, I believe that plays MP3s off of a thumb drive as well. My car doesn't have a CD player, but if it did, it looks like it has an app running. Seems like a waste to play MP3s off of a CD drive. You can see there's a navigation pop-up service running, so if there's a navigation alert, it can run. And this is MN Soft, which is the name of the company that produces the software for their navigation software, which you can download that app and hack into that. So that might be another possibility. There's a Bluetooth remote. iPod music, which I don't have an iPod. It'd be nice if some of these services weren't running. It's a voice dialer, so you can do your calls on MMS daemon running, so it can send text messages and receive text messages. And this one here is interesting. I've seen some other people do some interesting stuff with this My Menu. There's a special button on there that in the menus that lets you go straight to your own little customized menu. And so people have used that to put their special like YouTube app and their browser app on there. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, so I think that is going to pretty much wrap up what we discovered here. So I hope you enjoy the show, and yeah, we'll be seeing if we can find more interesting things. I've seen people do things like plug a USB keyboard into it and do like Windows shortcuts to try to pop up special menus. There's some other dealer modes that I got into that didn't make it into this report. They didn't have a lot of information additional to the engineering mode though. So there's a lot of attack vectors that I just didn't have time to explore, but I think we covered a lot of stuff and a lot of potential opportunities. The fact that it's running Android 4.2.2 is pretty interesting. I mean, that's Android 10 is just now coming out actively, being deployed. I mean, my phone just downloaded Android 10, so such an old version of Android is very susceptible. So there were two major vulnerabilities, the Bluetooth one and the one for Android 4.2.2, which is more of a privilege escalation vulnerability. So once I get access to the system and figure out how to get like a command prompt or a terminal window up, hopefully with the USB keyboard or something like that, then that'll allow me to do a privilege escalation. Seems like very trivially. So anyway, hope you enjoyed. Have a great morning, evening, whatever it is. Thanks for the Snail Report. Talk to you later. Bye.